Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching WION Climate Tracker with me, Molly Gambhir. Before we get started, a quick look at what's lined up for you on the show. Yet another alarming report which once again shows how our planet is in peril. There is compelling scientific evidence that the world is inching towards a climate catastrophe. Greenhouse gas concentrations, global sea levels, and ocean heat content reached record highs in 2021. This is as per a report released by hundreds of scientists from 60 countries. The annual State of the Climate Report has brought up several pressing environmental concerns. Let's break them down for you. According to the US government report, not only was the amount of greenhouse gas a problem, so was its rate of increase. The quantity of methane has never increased in a year as much as it did between 2020 and 2021, which was 18 parts per billion. The planet's sea levels rose for the 10th straight year, reaching a new record of 3.8 inches above the average in 1993 when satellite measurements started. The release of this report comes a few months after the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, report. And these reports have brought to the fore, once again, the challenges that our planet is facing. Losses of more than $100 billion, as well as severe impact on food security and humanitarian aspects due to climate-related events, have been reported. The report also mentions that tropical storms are expected to increase as the planet warms up, and mentions Typhoon Rai, which killed nearly 400 in the Philippines in December, and Ida, which swept through the Caribbean before becoming the second strongest hurricane to hit Louisiana after Katrina. Even the beautiful and celebrated cherry trees in Kyoto in Japan bloomed at their earliest since 1409. On the other hand, 2021 also witnessed record wildfires, which have continued this year as well. Currently, the world is witnessing record droughts, flooding events, and the melting of Greenland's ice sheets. Even without any future warming, there will be major effects for low-lying areas around the world that are home to hundreds of millions of people. The planet remains far off track from the ambition set by the Paris Climate Accord in 2015 to aspire to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. Officials from the group of 20 major economies met on Wednesday for the climate talks in Bali, but were unable to agree on a joint communique. In August, the US pushed through the most expansive government package ever to address emissions from the world's largest economy. The effort will invest heavily in clean energy and comes as California moves to require all cars to be zero emission by 2035, a decision with far-reaching consequences for the automobile industry. However, to limit warming to 1.5 degrees, countries will have to work together. Let's go straight across now to Louis Torrent, who is international consultant on climate change with us from Barcelona. Thanks, Louis, for being here. What is your reaction to this annual State of the Climate Report, which does raise a lot of environmental concerns?
Hello. I would say that this is a red alert report. Earth greenhouse gases were at the highest on record, but not just for the CO2, but also for methane and nitrous oxide, which means that we have reached the highest concentration in the last at least 800,000 years. So 2021 was among the 6 warmest years since records began in the mid-late 1800s. And global sea level has been rising for 10th consecutive year, and now it's almost 10 centimeters higher than the average in 1993. Other events like La Nina contributed to the warmest year on record in New Zealand, but also to the coolest year in Australia. And in the Arctic, even though it's been cool since 2013, 2021 showed the 13th warmest year in the 122 year on record. So I would say we should be somewhat concerned about this and pay more attention to climate action and ambition.
And that is the urgent need of the hour, to pay attention to these concerns. But there is also that glaring gap between the pledges that have been made, Louis, by different countries and the action on the ground.
Yeah, that's true. We are not on track to meet the Paris Agreement. In fact, the planet is not on track to the 1.5 degrees Celsius, either to the 2 degrees Celsius. To meet the 2 degrees Celsius target, we should reduce at least 4% our greenhouse gas emissions per year until 2030. If we want to meet the 1.5 target, we should at least reduce that amount for 8%. And at this moment, the G20 countries are meeting in Indonesia to discuss this. But one bad news is that some of these countries, even including 6 European countries, are turning back to using coal, which is exactly the opposite direction that we should be taking right now.
Right. And since you mentioned that, what would you like to say to those who doubt the climate crisis impact, who doubt that climate change is actually resulting in these extreme weather events that we are witnessing around the world?
There was a scientific consensus, and there is a scientific consensus on the human-induced climate change. And there's a concept which is called the planetary boundary, which is the safe operating area under which we can thrive as a society. That limit is set on 350 parts per million, and right now we are at 419 today. So it means that we as a society are at risk. Our development model is at risk, and even recent reports showed that we already have some climate lock impacts. What it means is that even though whatever we do, regardless of the actions we take today, some impacts are reversible already. So nothing we can do to avoid those impacts. One of these examples is the melting of Greenland, which will cause inevitably at least 27 centimeters increase in global seawater level.
Louis, we are leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for being here on the broadcast.
Thank you.
What you see behind me is all water.
There is no end to the misery brought by the floods for millions in Pakistan. Large parts of the country remain inundated. The latest satellite images revealing the extent of the destruction caused, including a massive lake that has taken the place of a part of the Indus River. The UN chief has called it a monsoon on steroids, which has claimed over 1,100 lives. And in the latest, the World Health Organization has warned over the increased threat of further spread of malaria, dengue fever and other water and vector-borne diseases among thousands of flood victims. Officials in Pakistan have also raised similar concerns. Initially, some doctors said they were seeing patients mostly traumatized by the flooding, but they are now treating people suffering from diarrhea, skin infections and other waterborne ailments in the country's flood-hit parts. The development has forced the government to deploy additional medical teams, dispatch medicines and provide clean drinking water to the survivors.
प्री फ्लड अगर हम रात को देखते थे 50 से 60 पेशेंट, तो अभी हम उसका ऐसे समझें कि 130-140 पेशेंट रात को नाइट में देखते हैं, जो नाइट ड्यूटी होती है 9 बजे से सुबह 9 बजे तक।
The historic deluge has impacted 33 million people. That accounts for 15% of the total population of 220 million people. Pakistan has received nearly 190% more rainfall than the 30-year average in the quarter through August this year. Monsoon rainfall submerged a third of Pakistan. The southern part of the country is bracing for more flooding as a surge of water flowed down the Indus River, displacing people, and the displaced are now seeking shelter under makeshift plastic tents. Further, Bahrain, a popular destination in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, is now a town in ruins, destroyed by the incredible force of the flash floods. The residents are struggling with basic amenities after the floodwaters took away a lifeline bridge.
पहले तो बहुत इजी थी, कारोबार चल रहे थे, सबको रोजी इनको आसानी मिल सकती थी। अब जो है ना, अभी इसको 20 अगर 30 साल भी लगे तो उस टाइम वो उसी तरह नहीं हो सकता, वो बहुत मुश्किल है। और तो आगे अल्लाह मालिक का रिज़्क़ देने वाला अल्लाह के साथ है, लेकिन मामलात बहुत मुश्किल है।
Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has called for need to multiply the foreign aid to deal with the crisis, calling the current floods the worst in history. The Premier emphasized on the food shortages threat in the country that is already marred with record high inflation. On to Japan now, where the weather agency has said that very strong typhoon Hinamnor is nearing several remote southern islands. This has prompted the authorities to issue warnings for local residents to seek shelter before it becomes too dangerous. So just how do hurricanes form and why are they so dangerous? Our next report explains. Take a look.
Hurricanes form in areas of intense low pressure and throughout their cycle can build up energy levels equivalent to 10,000 nuclear bombs. Usually occurring in each hemisphere's summer months, hurricanes are also known as cyclones or typhoons. They form over warm ocean waters when sea temperature is 26.6 degrees Celsius or higher at a depth of some 50 metres, when there's enough humidity and when surface winds meet. When warm air comes into contact with the ocean's surface, it heats up and starts to rise, creating an area of low pressure underneath. New, cooler air swirls in to take its place. As the heated, moist air rises and then cools off, the resulting water vapour forms clouds. Fed by the ocean's heat and surface evaporation, the swirls of air gather pace, whipping up a storm. Moving at about 30 kilometres an hour, generally from east to west, the storm's diameter ranges from 300 metres to 1,000 kilometres. Just over a week, it can travel thousands of kilometres. The Saffir-Simpson scale rates hurricanes from 1 to 5, depending on wind speed. A Category 1 hurricane could bring down trees and cause temporary power cuts, while a Category 5 would destroy homes and cause catastrophic damage. Meanwhile, in the eye of the storm, conditions can be calm enough for birds to fly. Once they move inland or over cool waters, hurricanes finally die out. Some scientists believe a recent increase in number and intensity could be due to global warming.
Nigeria's Osun River, considered sacred by many, is now facing the threat of pollution. The river's water is believed to have healed many and helped women with fertility, and is now being contaminated mainly because of the illegal mining taking place. The river remains in constant danger unless appropriate action is taken by the government. Our next report telling you more.
This is Nigeria's Osun River, and to many Yoruba-speaking people, this river is sacred. Worshippers offer prayers and drink and take bath here in hope that it can heal their pain and bless them with wealth and fertility.
God has given powers to Osun River from the beginning. Whoever comes to seek the fruit of womb, God will grant their prayers. Fertility belongs to Osun.
But this river is now getting contaminated because of pollution, waste disposal, and other illegal gold mining activities. This sacred river is now under threat.
From the look of the river, as you can see today the discoloration, the river is contaminated because of the mining activities by the miners. That is why the river looks like this now. That is the major challenge the river faces today. There was no threat to the river before now, but since mining activities began, people mining gold and using all sorts of chemicals. It is the chemical pollution that flows down the Osun River, reaching the sacred river at the Grove.
For years, Osun River has been revered by the people for its religious and cultural significance. People can often be seen offering prayers to Osogbo's sacred grove or conducting cultural activities in the Osun River's waters in the belief that their prayers will be answered.
What people refer to as water, we call it herb. The herb of Osun, because it has transcended ordinary water. It is not a river without an origin. It has an origin and has become a herb that we use for healing.
I believe in Osun River, which is why I am here to offer prayers and requests for what I need, and I have a strong belief that it is Osun that can make it happen for me.
After a series of tests conducted in 2021, Osun was found to be heavily contaminated. A non-profit organization, Urban Alert, is working towards cleaning up the river, while the chief priest and officials have warned the people to not drink or bathe in the Osun. They are simultaneously seeking government's help to stop the illegal miners from further damaging this sacred river.
Why some people think the contamination of the Osun River is not resolvable, I'm optimistic and I believe that it is possible. The government just need to have that political will to save the iconic river.
The Urban Alert's report found lead and mercury levels in the water to be above Nigerian industrial standards. It serves as a warning that if there is no swift action, Osun will die a slow death.
Let's turn our attention to the United States now. Heat waves, wildfires, flash floods have been making headlines throughout the year. Amid this, an extreme heat wave is settling over the western parts of America. California has asked the citizens not to charge their electric vehicles during peak hours between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. This comes as the state's electricity grid struggles due to extreme heat. The severe weather is likely to increase the load on the already stretched power grid as people rely heavily on air conditioners to cope with the heat. This also comes just days after Californian authorities said that they would stop selling gas-powered cars from 2035. And to make matters worse, temperatures as high as 44 degrees Celsius are being forecast in several parts of western U.S. The California governor declared a state of emergency that temporarily removes pollution controls. Lifting pollution control on fossil fuel power plants will allow them to generate more electricity to meet the soaring energy demands. The governor pointed towards the drought in the western region for adversely affecting the hydroelectric plants. He also called on households to do their part in getting through this period.
We voluntarily ask you to do a little bit more to help us get through the next week or so, to turn, interestingly, up a little bit the thermostat at home to 78 degrees. Try to pre-cool earlier in the day, the home. Try not to use too much electricity in those key hours, and the key hours are between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. In the evening.
Meanwhile, the National Weather Service has issued an excessive heat warning for most of California, as well as parts of Arizona and Nevada. These conditions are expected till Sunday. The Weather Service also warned of heat-related illnesses.
The first thing that we try to do, especially in the summertime, is offer water and ask them if they know where the closest heat relief site is. And then we talk to them about what some of the symptoms are of kind of heat exposure, feeling fatigued, feeling dizzy, feeling nauseous, making sure that they're not having any of those symptoms. We can do their vitals and make sure that they are stable. We've seen a lot of folks that do what we consider really dangerous things, like using the canals for swimming pools or to cool off, which is not safe. We've lost some folks to the canals this summer.
The latest heat wave comes after torrential rainfall hit parts of California in recent weeks. As per scientists, global warming is making the natural weather variations more extreme. Heat waves are getting hotter and more intense, while storms are getting wetter and, in many cases, more dangerous. Shifting focus to Brazil, where in August, the country's Amazon rainforest saw the worst fires recorded in the month since 2010, surpassing blazes that drew global attention in 2019. Take a look at our next report to find out more.
With only one day left to the end of August, the month already beats the record, as August was the most affected month by the fires in the Amazon since 2010. More than 31,000 fires have been recorded in the Amazon. It shows a strong relationship between the use of fire in recently deforested areas.
In India's semi-arid region of Rajasthan, villages are facing a water crisis due to the drastic reduction in rainfall and the depletion of the groundwater levels. Millions of people in India do not have access to clean drinking water, with women in Indian villages sometimes having to walk miles to fetch water. On a balmy morning in India's village of Karansar, 51 kilometers from Jaipur, capital of the northwestern Indian state of Rajasthan, women started their daily walk from their homes with pots in their hands to a community tap to fetch water. They say that they take approximately 5 to 6 hours on multiple trips each day to fetch clean water for their families, while also looking after young children, cooking and washing for the household.
When there was no water in our village, we used to face challenges in cooking, bathing the children, washing the clothes, as water is essential for household chores. When water was scarce, we used to bathe our children on alternate days and limit our water usage for cooking. We had a severe water crisis.
I have my grade 10 board exams coming up and I have a lot of studies to do, but I'm supposed to do household chores as well. So I face a lot of challenges due to this, and sometimes I even turn up late for school and the teacher scolds me. I face a lot of problems because of water scarcity.
With a population of 1.4 billion, India accounts for 18% of the world's population. However, only 4% of its water resources. According to a 2022 report by the World Bank, India is among the most water-stressed nations in the world. The scarcity of potable water, aggravated by common poor water sanitation practices, contributes largely to waterborne illnesses, stunting and deaths. Now, the climate crisis and overexploitation of groundwater are adding to water woes.
There, a woman living in a rural area has to walk 2.5 kilometers just to fetch water. Now, if you count the time that she has to wait at the water source, the multiple trips that she has to take, she can spend up to 6 hours a day just to collect water for her house. Now, a lot of the women and children are responsible to collect the water. So sometimes this means that girls have to be pulled out of school and they will not have a good opportunity to make a living for herself when she's grown up.
Just 25 kilometers away from Karansar village, the lives of women from Manda Bhubawas village changed for the better after they fought for a water initiative to be implemented in the community.
Men usually get ready and leave the house for their jobs, and majority of the water-related problems are faced by the women. We have to wash clothes and utensils using water. So all the women in the village came together and told the village council about the challenges we were facing, and only then were our problems resolved.
Frustrated by the lack of water, a group of women got together and pressed the village chief to ensure piped water supply to their homes. They even locked the village chief inside his room in the village council building to press for their water demands. Their movement coincided with the Indian government's initiative to supply clean water to every home under its ambitious Jal Jeevan Mission or Water is Life initiative, a collaborative measure with UNICEF's WASH project. Now these women have piped supply of water to their homes. They have not only helped supply tap water to village homes, but also trained the local women to test the water's quality and educated them on ways to manage wastewater. With ready access to clean water, residents now have more time to work and earn extra income for their families. Bureau Report, WION World is One. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of WION Climate Tracker. We're taking a break at this point. Stay tuned to WION World is One. Thanks very much for watching.